We're now going to move on from bacteria to viruses. In Latin, virus means poison. They're tiny, tiny things, smaller than bacteria, and they do not belong to any domain, so they don't belong to eukarya, bacteria, or archaebacteria because they're not alive. And this is kind of hard for some people to wrap their brains around. This is why they're not alive. First of all, they're not made out of cells. They're not made out of cytoplasm or organelles. All they have is protein, DNA or RNA, and sometimes a membrane, but they steal it from their host. Because they're not alive, they don't have a metabolism, so they don't need to break down food to get energy from it. They can't make their own proteins, so they're made out of protein, but they can't make it. What they do is they hijack the host cell's machinery, and the host makes it for them. Why they might be considered alive? They do have genetic material, DNA or RNA, and they can evolve. So think about the flu shot. You got the flu shot maybe last year, and if you got one again this year, it's a different strain because the flu is not the same year to year. Viruses can evolve. What viruses are made out of? First, they have DNA or RNA. It just depends on the kind of virus, and that would be in the center. Around the DNA or RNA, they have a protein coat that is called a capsid. Just like bacteria have a capsid, it's just another layer of protection around their, I want to say body, but they don't have a body, so I guess this is just protecting their genetic information. Some viruses have an envelope on the outside of their capsid, and this is kind of creepy but cool at the same time, because the envelope comes from the host cell's membrane, which helps disguise it and kind of give it an invisibility cloak of sorts. This would be like if you've ever seen the movie Hannibal, where the murderer takes people's skin and wears it. It's disgusting, but it's kind of the same idea here. If a virus is infecting your cells, it's going to be taking off part of your cell membranes and kind of wrapping itself in it, so it blends in with your cells even better. How they work. If it's an RNA virus, what it does is it gets inside of a cell, it inserts its RNA, and then let's say this is happening inside of you. Your cells say, hey, look, we need to take this mRNA and translate it into protein. It doesn't realize that it's not your RNA, that it's the virus's RNA. Once the proteins are made, they come together, they just know how, and they make new viruses. The viruses pack the cell to the point where the cell lyses or bursts, and then the viruses all escape and go to other cells and repeat the process. If it's a DNA virus, it'll be similar, but there'll be some things that it needs to do differently. Examples of RNA viruses: the flu virus, West Nile, polio, measles. A DNA virus, again similar but one extra step, gets inside the host cell, inserts its DNA, and now the extra step, we have to take the DNA, we make it into mRNA, and again, if this is happening inside you, your machinery is doing this for the virus. The mRNA is then taken to a ribosome, made into proteins, the proteins assemble, the viruses build up and burst out and go attack other cells. Notable DNA viruses: smallpox, chickenpox. There's many, many more, but these are just two that I picked out. There are certain viruses that infect bacteria. So when you think virus, you probably think infecting humans, but animals can get sick, plants can get sick, protists, which we haven't talked about yet, fungi, and even bacteria. So viruses that infect bacteria are called bacteriophages, and what they do, they look like little spiders to me. They attach to a bacteria, they inject the genetic material, DNA or RNA, into the bacteria copies it, and because bacteria replicate so quickly, it mass produces this viral DNA, which is really useful to scientists for genetic engineering. What we can do is we can take a DNA sequence that we want copied, we want a lot of it, and we want it fast, and we can put it into a bacteriophage. So that's what you're seeing in the picture on the right. There's a whole bunch of bacteriophages on one bacterial cell. The bacteriophage can then infect the bacterium. The bacterium makes tons and tons of the DNA that the scientist wants, and different ways that we're using this today would be for biocides. Think insecticide kills insects. A biocide kills bacteria. So we're finding biocides to be able to put into food to help keep our food safe, and also in different environments like hospitals where bacteria run rampant, and this helps keep the amount down. By having bacteriophages inject certain genes into bacteria, we can mass produce this DNA so we can use it on a big scale like this. We're also using bacteriophages to try and combat bioweapons and toxins. Anthrax is from a bacterium. Botulism is another one. And by the way, Botox. People get Botox injections into their face to help smooth out wrinkles. And now you might also see the commercials where they help with migraines. Botox is a poison. It comes from botulism, the botulism bacteria. I don't know who decided, hey, let's try injecting this into somebody's face and see how it works. It wouldn't be my idea of something to try, but that's essentially what Botox is. There are other ways that bacteriophages are being used as well. The connection to humans is pretty self-explanatory. Viruses cause diseases. Some diseases aren't direct, so like the flu, you can catch it from the person next to you if they sneeze on you, or don't wash their hands and touch your face, and please don't do that to the person next to you. But sometimes it's more of an indirect method, and that's when you have a vector. West Nile virus. West Nile is carried by a mosquito. The mosquito doesn't get sick with West Nile, but when it bites you, you get sick with the virus. So the mosquito would be a vector. It's another species, doesn't get sick with the virus, but it passes it on to the host that does get sick. It's kind of like a middleman. Some direct diseases that don't require a vector, chickenpox and shingles, come from the same virus. The common cold, herpes. There is a type of herpes that is just cold sores, so if you get cold sores, technically you have a form of herpes. The STD kind is type 2, and that's the one that you definitely don't ever want. AIDS is caused by HIV, so AIDS is the disease, HIV is the virus, influenza is the flu. We can help prevent getting sick from viruses with vaccines, which is a solution that's made up from a virus, a bacterium, or a toxin. And when it's injected into you, so let's say you get the flu shot, it causes your body to have an immune response against the flu. If you get sick with the flu then, your body reacts to it faster because it already knows what the virus looks like, essentially. The more often you get sick with the same thing, the faster your body responds. However, because viruses are constantly evolving, it's really hard to come up with a vaccine that will work for the rest of your life. Related to viruses, but smaller, we have viroids. A viroid does not have any protein. All it is RNA. And this RNA infects plants. We don't have to worry about viroids. What we do need to be careful about are prions. A prion doesn't have RNA or DNA. All it is a protein that's gone bad, and it's kind of come from the brain as far as scientists know. These diseases affect animals and humans. Examples, you've probably heard of mad cow disease. Mad cow can cause Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is the variation of mad cow in humans, and then Kuru is another one, and it's why you shouldn't eat brains. There was a mad cow scare pretty recently, and mad cow comes from this bad brain tissue that ends up infecting, well, getting mixed in with other types of meat. So think like ground beef, it's easy to get a contamination if you just have different parts of animals getting ground up in there. Or like hot dogs, where you really don't know what's in your hot dog. They're gross. Look it up sometime. It's disgusting. So if you get this prion from mad cow, it can lead to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is the version of it in humans, and it leads to neurodegeneration, which means your brain breaks down. As you can see on the Wikipedia page here, it says it causes the brain to develop holes and take on a more sponge-like texture. Now, cannibalists, pay attention. Back in the day in Papua New Guinea, there was a tribe of cannibals that ended up eating, so they did this for ceremonial reasons, ended up eating a brain that had prions in it. And so a lot of people got sick with a disease known as Kuru. And as you can see in the information, it causes pathologic bursts of laughter and other things that you really don't want to have to deal with. So if you are considering becoming a cannibal anytime soon, just avoid the brain area because you don't want to get kuru. Please refer to your note packet for what's coming up next.